There's something about working the night shift that changes you. When the world is asleep and you're the only one awake, the silence gets heavier. And sometimes, it whispers back. Tonight, you'll hear true stories from people who work the graveyard shift. Security guards, gas station clerks, delivery drivers, hotel staff. People who thought they were just getting through another quiet night. Until something found them. These are real, terrifying experiences. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and listen closely. Asterisk. Story 1. My name is Caleb, and for the past 4 years, I've worked as a night security guard for a freight warehouse located about 20 minutes outside the city. It's one of those jobs that's mostly quiet, too quiet sometimes. I don't mind the silence. In fact, I used to like it. There's something peaceful about walking alone between long rows of shipping containers with only the sound of your boots and a flashlight beam cutting through the dark. The incident I'm about to tell you happened in early February of last year. It was one of those freezing nights, the kind that make the metal on the gates crack and groan. My shift started at 10 p.m. and went until 6 a.m. That particular night, I remember clearly, I brought a thermos of coffee and 2 sandwiches, planning to just get through the hours with podcasts and maybe a few rounds walking the perimeter. The warehouse sits on a lot bordered by woods on one side and train tracks on the other. There's only one road that leads in and out. Once you're inside, especially at night, it feels like the rest of the world doesn't exist. It was about 1:45 a.m. when I first noticed something strange. I was doing a routine walk along the western side of the lot when I saw what looked like a person standing just beyond the fence, near the edge of the woods. My flashlight barely reached that far, but I could see the silhouette clearly. Tall. Still. Just standing there. I called out, "You all right?" No response. Not a flinch. Now, trespassers aren't that common, but it's happened. Usually kids or someone drunk thinking they can cut through the property. But this guy, he didn't move at all. I took a few steps closer, still outside the fence, and shone my flashlight directly at him. That's when I realized. I couldn't see his face. Not like it was hidden, it was just gone in the light. Just darkness where his features should have been. I blinked. Maybe it was the fog in the air, maybe my light was catching the trees weirdly. But as soon as I called out again, louder this time, "Hey! This is private property." He turned. But not toward me. He turned and walked back into the woods. Not fast. Just calmly. I radioed it in and logged the sighting like I was supposed to. Protocol said not to pursue unless they breached the fence, and he didn't. But I couldn't stop thinking about the way his head moved, like it wasn't curious or scared, just aware. About an hour later, I heard the motion sensor go off by one of the rear entrances. I checked the camera feed, nothing. Just static on that one camera. I headed there, slowly, and when I got to the rear entrance, there was nothing, no tracks, no sign of forced entry. But on the inside of the door, someone had written something. With what looked like ash or dirt. It said, "I see you clearer in the dark." I stared at that for way longer than I should have. No one else had access to that area that night. No vehicles came in, no alarms were tripped. And I checked the cameras again, just static during that entire 3-minute window. I finished my shift, but I never stopped feeling watched. Every sound after that seemed louder. Every shadow looked like it was holding something. I transferred to a different site a few weeks later. But sometimes, even now, when I'm outside late at night, I feel like something's still watching me. And every once in a while, I swear I hear that same crunch of footsteps on frozen gravel, just behind me. That wasn't the only time the night revealed something it shouldn't have. This next story comes from someone working alone. At a gas station off a quiet rural highway. Story 2. My name is Darren, and I used to work the overnight shift at a gas station off a rural highway. It wasn't a big chain or anything, just one of those quiet little stops in the middle of nowhere that gets the occasional trucker or lost traveler. The kind of place where you can go hours without seeing a single car. I worked there for almost 2 years. It wasn't a bad job. Pretty boring most nights, but I didn't mind. I brought books, listened to music, kept the place clean. The most excitement I ever had was dealing with someone trying to buy beer after hours. But then, one night changed the way I feel about working alone, forever. It was mid-November, and it was cold. The kind of cold that makes the glass windows fog up from the inside. It was around 3:30 a.m., and I hadn't seen a single customer in over 2 hours. I was behind the counter, scrolling on my phone, when I heard the door chime. You know that sound, the little bell that dings when someone walks in. But this one sounded off. Like it echoed too long. I looked up, and no one was there. No footsteps, no cold breeze from the door opening. Just silence. I got up, walked around the counter, checked the front door. Still locked. It hadn't opened. But the bell rang. I know it did. I stood there, confused for a second, thinking maybe I imagined it. But then I noticed something in the corner of my eye. On the floor near aisle 3, there was a boot print. Just one. It looked fresh, like someone had stepped there with wet dirt or oil. But the floor had been clean all night. And it was pointed toward the back room. I didn't know what to do. I remember standing completely still, listening, hoping I wouldn't hear anything else. But I did. A voice. From the back room. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just a low whisper. It said, "You see me now." I panicked. I backed away, grabbed the panic button under the register, and called the police. I didn't go into that back room. I just stayed near the door, shaking, trying to keep my eyes on the corners of the store. The police arrived maybe 15 minutes later. They searched the place top to bottom. There was no one. The cameras didn't catch anything. Not even the boot print. But I saw it. I remember the pattern. The dirt. The way it was placed, like someone had walked out of a space I knew was locked from the inside. A few weeks later, I quit. I still pass by that gas station sometimes on my way home. It's always empty at night. Always quiet. But once, just once, I swear I saw movement in aisle 3. Even though the lights were off. Being behind a counter is one thing. But being out there, alone, in the dark, delivering to strangers you'll never see again, comes with its own kind of fear. Story 3. My name is Luis, and for a while, I did late-night food deliveries to help pay off some debt. I was living in a small city at the time, and the app one worked PRA had this after-hours bonus that paid more between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. Not many drivers liked working that shift. But I didn't mind. Fewer cars. Fewer customers. More money. I thought it would be easy. I was wrong. It happened on a Thursday night. It was already after 2 a.m., and I was about to log off when one last order came in. The pickup was from a 24-hour burger joint downtown. The drop-off address was in a neighborhood I didn't know well, somewhere on the outskirts. I hesitated. The address felt off. But I accepted it. I picked up the food and drove out. The neighborhood was older, filled with long driveways and houses set far back from the road. No streetlights. Just darkness in my headlights. The GPS led me to a gravel road that curved behind a cluster of trees. I remember thinking, why would anyone live back here? But the GPS insisted. So I followed it. Eventually, I came to a small, crumbling house. Paint peeling. One window boarded up. No porch light. But there was a figure standing on the steps. Not moving. I pulled up slowly. Turned off the engine. I got out with the bag of food and walked toward the figure. Delivery for, Alan? No response. I stopped a few feet away. Did you order from Burger Stop? I asked. Still no response. just the sound of leaves rustling in the trees above us. Then the figure lifted an arm and pointed behind me. I turned. Instinctively, nothing was there. When I turned back, the figure was gone. Gone. No sound. No footsteps. Nothing. I panicked, dropped the bag and ran back to my car. I jumped in, locked the doors, started it, just wanting to get out of there. But as soon as I turned around to back out, there was someone standing directly behind my car. Close. Too close. Their face was pressed against the rear windshield, and their mouth was moving, but I couldn't hear anything. Just silence. I slammed the gas, nearly spinning the wheels on the gravel. By the time I got back to the main road, I was shaking. I reported the order as undeliverable, blocked that area on my delivery zone preferences, and I never took another after midnight delivery again. But sometimes, when I drive past certain wooded areas at night, I feel that same pressure in my chest, like I'm being watched. And once, while cleaning out my car weeks later, I found something tucked under the passenger seat. A receipt from that burger place, with a name I don't recognize, and on the back, written in greasy black ink, I was never inside the house. Some jobs feel strange the moment you walk in, but others seem normal until something inside the building starts watching you back. This last story takes place inside an old hotel, where not all the guests are alive. Story 4. My name is Troy, and I worked as a night shift receptionist at a small hotel just outside the city limits. It was the kind of place that looked like it hadn't changed since the 80s, beige carpets, fake plants, and those plastic room keys instead of cards. Most of our guests were people passing through. Truckers, couples on road trips, traveling salesmen. The hotel was quiet at night. Too quiet, sometimes. I usually worked alone, from 11 p.m. until 7 in the morning. The only other person in the building during those hours was the janitor, Mr. Hale. But he mostly stayed on the lower floors, fixing old pipes or vacuuming the halls. So when something weird happened, I usually had no one to ask. It was around 2:20 a.m. when I got a call from room 209. No one was staying in 209 that night. I checked the computer twice. It was vacant. Had been for 3 days. But the phone rang. The red light for 209 was blinking. I picked up. "Front desk," I said. There was silence. Then, a woman's voice, very calm, said, "He's walking through the mirror." And then the line went dead. I stared at the phone for a while. Tried to tell myself it was a prank. I called 209 back. No answer. I tried calling Mr. Hale's radio to see if he had gone upstairs. No response. So, I grabbed the spare key and took the elevator up. The hallway was cold. Colder than it should have been. Almost like the air was being pulled out of it. Room 209 was near the end of the hall. I reached it. Door closed. Completely silent. I knocked. No answer. I unlocked the door and pushed it open slowly. Lights were off, but the bathroom light was on, flickering. I stepped inside. It smelled off, like something wet had been left in the room for days. I called out again, nothing. And then I noticed something. The bathroom mirror had a crack. Not just a crack. It looked like something had pushed out from the inside, as if the glass had bulged toward the room. There was a small handprint on the mirror. Not from a full-sized adult. Something small. Child-sized. And it was on the inside of the glass. I backed out of the room slowly, locked the door, and went straight back to the front desk. I filed an internal report, but didn't mention the handprint. Who would believe me? The next day, the hotel manager said room 209 was being taken out of service indefinitely. He didn't explain why. A few days later, Mr. Hale quit. He never told me what happened. only said, "There's something in that room that doesn't want to leave." To this day, I won't stay in any hotel room that ends in 09. It sounds irrational, I know. But I trust my instincts now. Because I still remember that voice on the phone. And sometimes, when I look into a mirror for too long, I feel like something on the other side is just waiting for me to blink. If you've ever worked alone at night, you know that feeling, that sense that something might be watching. That maybe you're not as alone as you thought. If you've had an experience like the ones you've just heard, share your story in the comments. And if you want more real encounters that will keep you up at night, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell. You never know what the dark might bring next.